Welcome ESL to ESL Trackside, the podcast. As I have my co-host with me, Erette Sawyer, and we're gonna do a quick rundown of his power rankings, and then we're gonna take a little deep dive into the playoffs of the next gen series and the 1987 series. Um, so I'm gonna let Erette Sawyer take it away to start.
Hey, thanks for having me again. I'm glad we can do another podcast here to talk things over after our second quarter of the season. It's been a great season so far, and the races are sure tightening up over here. We when we look at the road series and multi-class series, we're gonna start bottom to top this time. In eighth place, Can-Am. Uh, Unfortunately, the lack of roster size is still has them struggling at times here in the power rankings. Um, in seventh, after dropping two spots, is DOG. In sixth was Apex. They went up a spot. In fifth, going up another spot, as well as Lost City Racing, the rookie team, getting into the fifth place spot. And then from here, it's the same as the last week. Fourth is the Brew Crew. Third is Desperado. Second is Low Fuel, and first is Northern Lights. But those two teams are separated by less than 2/10.
So, we have um, hold on. This is the oval you were talking about here.
No, this
Uh,
is road and multi-class.
okay, road to multi-class. I mean, Northern Lights is you know, they're doing their thing. Low fuel's not too far behind. I'm looking at points right now. Um, but Northern Lights and Low Fuel are tied for wins. Desperado is, having this like sleeper type of season.
Hmm.
They're only 71 points behind. They have three wins, but they've been pretty consistent. Um, man, like they could be a scary sleeper. I've had my eye on them. What you think about Desperado Racing?
It's a surprise, I guess, from what we've seen from him in the previous road seasons. It's a good surprise. Not upset about it. They have been very consistent, constantly picking up top threes in their series. The only thing is like there is a little gap between them and the top two, but they also have another gap between them and everybody else too. So
Yeah,
they look pretty good, and I just hope they can find a way to get up to Low Fuel and Northern Lights.
yeah. I mean, I feel like Chris Webber. He is the anchor of that road team. Um, man, he's very consistent. Last season he showed it. This year he already has two wins, under his belt. Um, he's got five top fives, I mean, his average finish fourth. So, I mean, I think they could really hang around. Marco Swift has turned it around, that's for sure. Jaden Swift, he's always competitive in that LMP.
Hmm.
Um, that's like season in, season out. He's always competitive there. Um, and who else do we have on that team?
So they
There's
they
some
have
some some say
some
he's
some say, yeah.
yeah, he's in the BMW series and he's in third. I mean,
Yeah, it's third, fourth, third for their driver positions.
they could definitely make a run. I mean, to me,
Oh
out of
yeah,
out of all those teams that you mentioned on your power rankings, um, that's definitely my sleeper pick. I mean, I wouldn't count out the Brew Crew either. Um, they're still hanging around. We still have another six races, and in multi-class, there could be a lot of shifting in points. So um, it's gonna be interesting for sure.
I agree with you. There is a bit of a pack in that fourth through seventh spot.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
Desperado is to me the clear team to try to jump up and compete. They just need to start picking up a few more wins here, and I think they can close the gap pretty quickly.
Yeah, I definitely agree. All right. Let's move on to the next thing. What you got next?
For the oval side, so on the oval rankings, we're going to look in. Unfortunately, not quite following up their road series, but Desperado sits in eighth place. They dropped a spot. Can-Am drops a spot to seventh place. Lost City jumps up two spots to sixth. Uh, and then DOG stays in fifth. Apex stays in fourth. Low Fuel stay. Oh, I'm sorry. Apex dropped to fourth. Low Fuel went up to third. And then Northern Lights drops to second, and Brew Crew is taking over the top spot in the second quarter.
Yeah, I mean, Brew Crew is another sleeper team, I think. They've quietly uh, put together a great season. Um, they did lose a driver, so how much will that hurt moving forward? I'm not sure, but this is they've in second. It's probably the highest I've seen them this deep into the season. I might be wrong. I'm just thinking top of my head, but um,
No, I think you're right. I think you are right on that one.
um, 104 points is definitely doable. We've seen
Oh
bit
yeah,
bigger leads get, you know, completely disappear in a few weeks. So, um, and the way everything is set up now, uh, with legends and just how so many factors there is now, um, they definitely could close the gap. They only have 2 wins, but they have been consistent. Um, and next gen is their bread and butter. So, and they've been doing great in the 1987 as well. So that
yeah. I
might
was about
be,
to say,
that's like a double. It's like a double whammy now. Like they really could pack a punch with these two series. Um, if they can continue to be consistent, which I do foresee that. Um, I definitely could see them
yeah.
going.
When you look at the Brew Crew here, like you said, their next gen in 1987, they're sitting top in both series. The thing holding them back though is the Legend series, and that's where they just lost a driver. So they're gonna need you know, their other two Legends drivers to step up and start trying to pick up consistent points to try to help their other two series close the gap.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's gonna be a two-team battle for the Oval Championship. Um, unless Low Fuel and Apex could really start making some magic happen. Um, there's still time, but the door is quickly closing. Um, and then you have DOG. Um, they still been doing good for a newer team. Lost City, they've shown, some flashes. So once they really get that program together, I really feel like they're gonna, you know, have an impact. But they
Yeah,
have they have a few cars in the playoffs, so that says a lot.
that is.
They just have to find that consistency and put it together. But they're definitely on their way. That is for sure.
Yeah, when I look at the standings like you were talking about, uh, I don't I think it's either Low Fuel or Apex. One of them is going to be has a chance to close the gap. I don't foresee both of them closing the gap because I don't know if there's that much points to go around to catch
Yeah,
for two
yeah,
teams to catch both Brew Crew and Northern Lights. Um, so I think one of them can move up, or DOG, who has started to separate themselves from the rest of the teams in that fifth spot, they can close the gap and try to fight for third as well.
yeah. That is
Uh,
true.
s-
And you know,
Still plenty to watch out here.
and even though teams can't, even if your team can't win that series, or the overall, there's still money involved for these teams, um, depending on where they place in the series. So that's important as well.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's move on to what's next
Well,
here.
so you want to look at the playoffs, right? You want to get a little idea of who's in the playoffs, who's looking safe,
Yeah,
who's on the bubble.
I know a lot of drivers are anxious. to know where they stand. I mean, some know they're locked in already, but some are on that fence. So what are we gonna start it with? 1987?
Yeah, let's start with 1987. I do want to preface for everyone listening that the way I set this up when I put the list together is I only took the top 8 drivers who aren't in at points, and said those are the playoff standings for right now because there are two more automatic slots. So if let's just say no one repeats as a winner,
Right.
then there's 8 playoff spots by win. There's 8 playoff spots by points.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah, that makes
say
sense.
say one of the teams that are in the points side of things, one of their drivers or one of the drivers that's already locked their spot, they get a win. Then all of a sudden it's now 9 drivers by points. But not trying to predict the future, I just left it for the 8 point spots that we're looking at.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So
Um,
we can go by let's go by who's locked in by wins. Let's start with that.
I don't have them in order. I just have them in order of their standings and the points right now. Um, so the top driver locked in by wins is Gunny, who's in third. Uh, Tanner Parton is in fifth. Evan Ethel in sixth. Juan Fangio in seventh. Devontae in eighth. And now here's the monkey wrench being thrown into things. DJ Hume, who is in 21st. So he's outside of the top 16, which means one of the top 16 drivers loses their spot.
Right, and that's why winning is so important.
Yep.
Um, and other drivers don't want to see that because now he just took a spot away from somebody that is already sitting sixth in the top 16 in points.
Hmm.
So the more drivers that win outside of that top 16, you know, they're just gonna. So if another driver wins, say next week, now instead of that top, 15 in points get in, now it's the top 14. So
Exactly.
it starts to shrink. So you don't really want to see a driver that's like in the top 20 in points win a race. I mean, it's great for them, but for you, if you're sitting around that bubble or at the edge of it, your chances are not good to get in.
No, that's exactly what you. If you're on the bubble spots, you're praying only people ahead of you win or yourself.
Yeah, and it's man, it's tight there now that looking at the standings, you have
Hmm.
man, Chris Lee's in that on the edge. For example, he's 16th. So DJ Hume, he won, so that bumps Chris Lee down. And right now
Yeah.
he's outside looking in because DJ Hume won in week one. Um,
Yep.
so that's the scenarios. Like if somebody else were to win, like I explained earlier, Travis Porter and Chris Lee would be outside looking in.
Hmm.
You have Amelia LaFrance 14th. I mean, and
Well,
these drivers are separated by like 10 points, which is
yeah.
that's extremely tight. Um,
Well, let's get into the scenario here because I got them listed for you. Um, so then if we look at the drivers who you want to say there's almost they're virtually locked in, because of how far ahead they are.
right, yeah,
To see them dropping 8 plus spots or 8 other drivers jumping ahead of them in 2 races, it seems almost impossible.
yeah,
And those we have 3 drivers here. Justin Reside, he's sitting in the first in the points. He's 107 points, 107 points above the elimination zone right now. AJ Stryker in second is sitting 79 points above, and Tyler Grims in fourth is 59 points.
yeah. Those drivers have been having a great season.
Hmm.
Um, Justin Reside, he could be your regular season champion. I mean, he's up by 28. He's fighting with Gunny as well. I mean, Gunny's locked in, but I'm talking more about, your regular season champion.
Hmm.
Um, but Justin Risa has 100 stage points. You know,
Yeah,
and
he's been killing it on the stage points.
and I always stress that on the broadcast because it's true. You need as many stage points as possible. Um, that's only gonna help you in the long run, you know. So, and he has 4 stage wins, so that gives him some playoff points. So he's definitely sitting good. AJ Striker's sitting good as well. And your third was Tyler Grims,
He's sitting in fourth.
and he's quietly put together a great season. So let's move on to on the bubble, looking in.
So these drivers are the five. Assuming that two other drivers win, these are the bottom. These are the last five by points that would get in. So right now, with two blanks yet to be filled, David Leathers in ninth is only 18 points ahead of Elim. Isabella Ramon is 15 points ahead of Elim. She sits in 10th. Sebastian Primo is 11th with 11 points up. Chris Webber's in 12th, 7 points up. And Thomas Noble is in 13th, 5 points up. And
So
those would be your 8 points drivers as of right now, not knowing who fills the last two wins.
yeah, see, and that's the crazy part. That's how what this and this part of the standings is where things are extremely tight. So a lot of this could
Hmm.
determine if you get in by 1 point, 2 points, as we saw last season. It came down to minimum like 2, 3 points, four,
Yep.
one. I mean, it was crazy. Um, so who's outside looking in?
Outside looking in right now, Amelia LaFrance, who we talked about, is in 14th. They're only 5 points back right now. 15th, Arthur Porter. He's 8 points back. Chris Lee in 16th, 13 points back. Trunan Dunn is 22 points back in 17th. 18th, Tazzy Blackwell, 28 points. CJ Slava is 32 points back, and Andy Dunmurray is 36. Outside of that, I think you're looking at long shots that really, really need to win to have to get in the playoffs, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say that like Tyler, the 13 there, number 13, Tyler, he's been having a good last 2 races, but he's pretty far back. Um, he would definitely need to get a win. I mean, is it impossible? No, but it's gonna be difficult because of how competitive the series
Yeah.
is. You
Well,
need it.
when you look at one driver in particular, can they get these points? Sure, but it's not only can they get those points, it's can they pass the what 7 drivers ahead of them on the outside looking in, plus another driver in the playoffs that are it's on the bubble. Uh, are you going to be able to gain that many points on so many drivers ahead of you? Is what we're looking at.
Right, and you gotta hope that those drivers ahead of you do bad as well.
Hmm.
Because even if you do good and they do good, then you really don't gain too much ground.
Yep,
Um,
exactly.
but I mean, in order to gain some serious ground, I think you would have to win every stage and win the race,
Yeah,
to give you maximum points, and that might help you move up some. If you're like way down in the 20s here, um,
because I mean, just at 21st, you're looking almost 50 points in 2 weeks, but that's 50 points on 8 drivers.
yeah, that's extremely tough. I mean,
Yeah.
you need a lot of things to go your way in order for that to happen. Let's what we got next? Next gen.
Next gen. Yep, we got next gen over here. So let's hit the 6 drivers locked in with wins. There is a little bit more interesting over here because you got Ace Blade in second. Aaron Kozak is in, or Ace Blade is second overall in standings. Aaron Kozak is in with who's in ninth. Ralph is in at 10th. Doug is in at 11th. Freddie is in by win, but he's in 20th. And Bill Cherry is also in by win, and he's in 24th.
Yeah, see, this is what we were talking about earlier. Now there's two drivers that are in the top 20 or more or further down that have won a race
Hmm.
and they're locked in. So now it's only the top 14 get in um, by points. So that makes it much tougher. And if we have another driver to win around that top 20, man, things really gonna get tight. Um,
Uh, yeah, and there's 2 drivers I'll mention later. Um, be, because of the we had a playoffs last year. There's 2 drivers that made deep runs that aren't in the playoffs right now. We'll touch on it in a little bit.
Okay.
That you can see them on any given week. Those two drivers can pick up a win. So there's people out of the playoffs that are low down that are still scary to take away some more of these point spots.
Yeah. Well, we'll have some sleeper picks at the end of this. Um, but let's move into who you have virtually locked in by points.
So virtually locked in. It's a little bit tighter over here in NASCAR, but that's also because a lot of the wins are already in that like uh, you're looking in the bottom eight of the top 16 already. But virtually locked in. Oweezy, he's 67 points up. Axel Raven is um, third. Oweezy was in first overall. Axel Raven third overall, 51 points up. Merle McGuire fourth overall, 42 points up. Those are the three drivers I have, but Merle is a little bit more questionable for me because 42 points is still something that can be overcome uh, because there are still so many drivers. Like the next four of the drivers are in the top eight, so there's a chance that he could get knocked out. But because it is so many drivers, I did put him in the virtually locked in spot as well.
Yeah, Burrow, he's been picking it up as of late, but he's always pretty consistent this time of year. So um, I have a feeling he should get in without no crazy, you know.
It'd have to take something crazy for him to drop out. In my
Yeah.
that's why I put him in there.
So we who we have for on the bubble looking in.
On, on the bubble, but in we got Kyle Storm in fifth, 27 points up. Myself, Rhett Sawyer in sixth, 27 points up as well. Amelia Rose from the Brew Crew up 26 points. Andrew Green up 19 points. And then sitting in a dead tie with the last on the bubble but in spot, Peyton Hill. He is even with a driver on the who's looking on the outside.
Man, this is when these all these points during the race is gonna be huge. The stage point. A lot of this could come down to stage points.
Yep,
If I can,
that's what I believe is separating the two of them.
yeah. If I take a look at uh, Peyton Hill here, he has 49 stage points. Killmonger has 45 stage points. So
Hmm.
it's definitely gonna come down to um, the stage points. And Peyton Hill has one top five, and Killmonger has none, but he has two top tens. So I mean, he hasn't had the best season, but all he needs to do is have one good race, I think,
Yeah.
out of the next two, and he should get into the playoffs. Same with Peyton Hill. It's gonna be interesting to see if they both get in. Only one gets in, or they both don't make it. Um, I think the best case scenario is to win a race, you know, at this point. I know Bruku would love to get all their cars in the playoffs again. Uh,
Yep.
they did it last season. They could go back to back. Um, it is possible. Killmonger is probably the one that could really miss it if he, has a bad race, I think. Um, out of all the drivers on that team.
Oh yeah, I mean, because you look at it, Kozak is already in. Merle, we say, is virtually locked in. Amelia and Andrew are both looking pretty good. So for the Brew Crew, they're just hoping Killmonger gets that spot.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. So who we have outside looking in?
So there's only four drivers this time, in my opinion, because um, when we're looking at the 8 points spots here, as we already know, Peyton is, there's zero there. He's not separating himself by very much. But you're looking at 20-point gaps for the next four drivers, and they're all the way in the top eight. So it's hard to see many drivers past these four making a break into it without a win as well. So in 13th, Killmonger, who we already talked about, tied with Peyton Hill for that last spot, but
Yeah,
separated by stage points. Tyler Commander in 14th is 1 point back. Odeon, Muldoon is 5 points back, and JQ in 16th is also 5 points back.
man, it's crazy that Odeon is in the same position that he was last season. Um, man, he's been close to winning a race this season,
Oh,
but man, it's like he's always on that edge. I mean, last year he snuck in and made that crazy run. Um, but here he is again, just trying to sneak in. Um, I know he would love to get a win and not have to worry about any of these scenarios, but that's definitely a driver to look out for. I think out of those four, outside looking in, to me, Killmonger and Odeon. I mean, I wouldn't count JQ out neither, but
JQ got in by win last season.
yeah. So for me, that Odeon is a sleeper again. That
Yep,
I
a
mean,
Final Four driver from last season.
yeah. So I could really see him if he gets in again, making some noise. But yeah, we'll see what happens from here on out. We have two races to go. We have uh, what's the two tracks? We have Pocono,
Hmm.
and well, Pocono is week 8. Just pull up the schedule here.
Right
It's
here, Dover.
Dover and Pocono. I knew it was. I had a feeling it was Dover, but yeah. So short track, and then 2.5 mile track. So, but this Pocono, we've never raced that, so no one knows, you know, how good their setup on their car is gonna be. You know, this is all new to us. This is
Yeah, I believe both of those tracks are brand new because I don't remember us racing at Dover either.
no, not in the next gen. We haven't. Um, so it's gonna be, Dover is a track where man, it's a lot of tire wear.
Hmm.
It is a short track, but it's man, Dover kills those tires, so that's gonna be interesting. And Pocono is like more, it's a very fast track. I mean, if people have seen, been keeping tabs of the world of racing, we've raced that Pocono already. But even though that's the older generation car, but you could see with 6 cars how much racing is going on at times. So imagine 37 cars, or 36. That's definitely gonna be a wild card track. Um, who knows if we have Rex there? We don't know what to expect, so it should be definitely interesting. But who do you have for? Let's go back to 1987. Who do you have for your sleeper picks of drivers that are outside
So we're
that
looking at
that might?
1987 here
Yeah, matter of fact, let's go. Give me two drivers that you think will get in with a win.
with a win. Ooh, um, that's hard. I think we can look at drivers because you can even take the top 8 or the other drivers in
I would say drivers that are like way out there.
way out there. Okay,
Yeah, like they're in 20th, 18, like about 18 on down.
18 on down here. That's a tough one. I think Andy Dunwoody is a good chance to do it. And then one of your drivers, Tazzy Blackwell, would probably be my other pick. I know she struggled in picking up some stage points, but y'all tend to get your driver set up pretty well to make a run for it.
Yeah, I would say, man, it is a little tough here. Looking here, I would say Tyler, just because he's had two great runs
Hmm.
the last 2 weeks, and maybe, oh, that's tough.
Yeah, over in the 1987 series, it's tough because The stage points have been gobbled up by the top driver, so it's hard to really
Yeah,
see who's been putting up points.
it's man, uh, yeah, maybe Andy's the strongest one. I think one of the
Yeah,
strongest ones there that could win a race. And I feel like he tends to do good on smaller tracks. Um,
that is true.
so I think he might have a really great chance of hopefully getting into victory lane. Uh, Now let's flip it to the next gen side. Um, this will
Well,
be more
next gen.
options.
Oh yeah, because there's a few drivers I wanted to talk about here that are on the outside looking that I think is out of the playoff picture by points that really need some wins. And the easiest two to call out for me, Kenny Flourish and Lotus Lee, your reigning champion, and also another Final Four driver in Kenny Flourish.
Yeah, those are two solid picks. Lotus Lee just has had his fair share of bad luck. Um, and it just seems to go that way once somebody wins the championship. It seems like that next season is so hard. Um,
Yep.
it's just I think it's been like that through the history of the NASCAR like champions. It's extremely difficult that second season once you've won to repeat that. And now with the playoff format, it's even harder. So if I were to pick, I would definitely have to pick Lotus Lee. Um, and man, um, yeah, I would probably have to say Kenny Flourish as well. Maybe Stefan Forge. I wouldn't count out Stefan Forge. As of late, he's been having some solid runs.
Well, I mean, there's if I remember correctly, there is five playoff drivers from last year on the outside looking in. Because I think Rooster made it last year. He's sitting in 18th.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Brogan, he made it in. He's sitting in 21st. I don't. Braden is the only one that I don't remember if he made it in or not
No,
last year.
Braden was he was in Tier B
Okay, so yeah,
last
then
season.
it's
So
four drivers.
yeah, so
Because
yeah,
Brogan and Rooster both made it in, and then Kenny and Lotus were both part of the final four, and Lotus won it. And all four of those drivers are on the outside looking in, to where they all need wins, in my opinion, to make it in.
yeah, and I mean, I'm telling you, Northern Lights and the Brew Crew, man, eating up all those spots here for the playoffs. They need to leave some for everyone else. Lowfield only has two right now. Um, DOG has one. That's locked in.
Lost City
Uh,
has one, Apex has one.
so I mean, yeah, I mean it's. I think I'm hoping every team gets a car into the playoffs. That'll be great, even if it's one. At
We
least,
did have that last year.
yeah, at least each team has some type of representation in the playoffs. But we'll see. Desperado there on the edge there. And JQ could easily get a win, I think.
Oh yeah, I mean, like we said, Jay's only separated 5 points.
And I think his best chance would be Pocono because he seems to have a great setup on bigger tracks. He's always in the mix on bigger tracks. Um, I think that would be his best track to do it. Um,
It's also a track that favors drivers out in front because it is so hard to pass. Um,
yes, yes, it
in the
is.
in the, on the inside, if you position them correctly.
Yeah, and it's, you know, managing your tires there is extremely a big thing.
Yep.
You saw in those long runs in the world of racing of how loose the cars start to get towards the end of that run. Um, they're like all over the place. So yeah, it's really gonna be, it's an oval, but not really. It's a very tricky track. So
There's no banking to help you try to make those inside moves. So
Yeah, and then the front stretch, the stretches are so long in between the turns. It's like a little triangle type um, of format. It's a great track. It's gonna be interesting of how these setups do. You know, and it's a big race. So
mhm.
the last race of the regular season, who can get in? Or is there now? If there's a repeat winner in any of these two races, then it makes it even harder for those other drivers that are hoping on a prayer, you
Yeah,
know, to get in. Or, you know, um, yeah. So you don't want to see a driver win a second race. Last year we didn't have it. Um, it's extremely hard to do in this league, but it is possible. Yeah, I couldn't even tell you who has a great chance of winning um, at Dover. Uh, that's definitely a tough track
short
to.
tracks are unpredictable.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, so much can happen.
If you get caught in the wrong line, you just get passed over and over again.
Yeah, yeah,
So the whole field can cycle around depending on who gets caught on bad lines, and then the AI likes to also prioritize track position. So you'll see the front half of the field stay out on the track while the bottom half goes and gets tires, and then the tires play a huge role in deciding who wins the stage or the race.
yeah. Because sometimes the AI rather not give up position. That's just
Hmm.
its thought process. Um, so it might decide, hey, no, it's not worth for me to come in. Um, it's better if I stay out. And once in a it depends on the track. Like we saw at Atlanta, um, it really didn't matter. It really, but if it's a track that eats up tires, then it's like you have to come in. You know, some of it's pit strategy.
Yep.
So it's gonna be interesting on how the races play out next week. So it only gets more intense from here on out. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if you have anything else to add before we wrap
Uh,
this up.
well, one person in the chat did ask if we were going to talk about the quote unquote miracle season LCR is having. Lost City. Uh,
Okay.
they're having a solid season. I don't want to say it's not a miracle season, but they have some big shoes as rookie teams to still live up to, and they're because I believe DOG finished fourth last year,
Yeah, I don't have the
or they were. I think DOG was winning weeks by the end of last season. I can actually pull that up real quick because I
yeah.
have that all saved.
Let me see if I have it in here. Let's
They certainly Lost City has certainly been having a good season. Uh, yeah, so by week 11, DOG had won 2 weeks of the season so far, and they had won their first one back in week 6. They won week 6 and 11. They had 6 wins, which tied them for third in wins, or no, 8 wins. Sorry, my eyes are betraying me. 8 wins, yeah, which tied them for third with tied them for second with low fuel in wins. Uh, so
so
they're DOG put some big shoes for Lost City to follow up in.
yeah, yeah. I definitely agree there. Um, let's see.
Uh,
So I have okay. So they finished fifth.
yeah,
Okay. Um,
yeah, but from what I'm looking at here, their first four weeks were pretty rough. 'Cause they only scored above 230 points one time in 4 weeks, and then after that it was 280, 280, 250, 250, then back down to 230, but 240, 290. So they became like week 5 and 6 was where they turned it around and started almost taking. weeks on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and so DOG in their rookie season had 8 oval wins
Hmm.
and 9 road wins. And if we compare that to Lost City currently, they have 3 oval wins, and on the road side
Two, I want to say
they have 4
four. Okay.
because this last week they just won a few
Oh,
races.
okay. You're right. Yep.
So I
They
mean
have
it's
four.
we're only halfway, so they have plenty of time to catch up, and we'll see how it shakes out for them towards the end. Um, but they've been winning. It's a good sign when you can get into victory lane, um, even if it's not every week. But if you're showing flashes that you can really you know make an impact every week, um, eventually they'll put it together. Um,
And then also, when we look back to the previous rookie team, J and K, they almost won their rookie season in the Oval, if I'm not mistaken. They were they had like one of the largest collapses because I want to say it was like almost 200 points with 2 weeks left, and they lost by like three.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like big leads, man, could just disappear in a matter of weeks. Um, if depending on how everything plays out, but it is possible um, that if someone has a big lead, it could be gone in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Um, I mean,
So
a lot of bad things have to happen, obviously, but
yeah. So all that to say, like Lost City's still having a great season. Uh, I wouldn't call it a miracle yet because we've seen a rookie team almost win and also start taking a lot of wins off of teams. So
yeah,
hopefully we get to see the after the second progression window they start taking that step up again like DOG and other teams have in the past. That's usually where it all happens because they start to get a little bit of a budget under their belt and able to make some moves.
yeah, I agree, and they are short one car in the NASCAR Next Gen
Yep.
Series, which that doesn't help. But all in all, they're having a pretty solid season. We could put a grade on it towards the end. Um, but so far they got a few cars in the playoffs, which is great.
Hmm.
Um,
They have two locked in 1987 and one in next gen.
yeah, Bill Cherry just locked in last week. Um, so it should be interesting moving forward. Um, we have one more big progression to go, and that progression happens 1 week into the playoffs. So we'll see how that shakes out. Um, I don't know if you have anything else, Rhett, and
Nope.
I have just a few things. Since we're at the halfway point of the season, um, I'm always looking towards the next season. In World of Racing, that series wasn't what I expected, um, what I was hoping for. So that series won't be returning. Will something return in its place? I don't know yet. Uh, I have a few ideas floating around. Um, we'll see. I mean, the concept is great, um, unless I revamp it, but I don't really think that's gonna come back right now. Um, and there's gonna be a few changes as far as this is more of team ownership things. Um, but I want to really push closer to the real NASCAR as far as how they do things, as far as team ownership goes. And if some of you follow NASCAR, you know that NASCAR has charters. A charter is one car. So some NASCAR teams um, have 3 or 4 charters, which is like 3 or 4 cars, but they do pay for each charter. In real life, it's like 30 million, 35 roughly. Um, so teams will be paying for charters next season. Um, all those details are getting worked out. Uh, but I'm also want to bring in a new aspect to the league. As I was talking to Rhett earlier, um, I look at uh, I look at driver builds more as setups in the league. Um, this is why I allow teams to change. I mean, I allow drivers to change builds because I treat it as a setup. So as a car setup. So if one season you put in submit a build and that setup it's not what you thought it was, the following season you can change it, tweak it, make it better, and maybe your car drives better. So with that being said, the plan is to allow teams to adjust those setups during the season. Right now, we just add points. Right now, you get your progression, you save. You get your 14 points. You add it to your build, to your build. Um, so what I'm gonna allow teams to do, because I want this to be more, um, to have more strategy, come into play. Because different tracks are very different from what your setup in your car is, your build, whatever, whichever way you want to call it. So I'm gonna allow teams to be able to change points. So for instance, um, say you have too many points on one side. I'm just going to use smoothness for an example. Um, so I'll allow a team to be able to take 20 points from your build and move them around. So they could take, for example, this is just an example, they could take 20 points out of your smoothness and maybe put 10 points into your pit skill, or maybe put 10 points into your aggression or into your optimism, but they'll be able to change your build. They'll be able to change your setup for the following race. Now, teams, this is not going to be something free. Teams will have to pay for this. And those details are going to get worked out. Um, but you'll only be able to do this during the regular season. Once the regular season ends, that setup and that build is they won't be able to change move points around anymore um, during the playoffs. So that is something that I've been kind of working on and trying to figure out the logistics of it, and but that's gonna bring a whole new dimension to the league, and I think it's definitely needed. Um, I want a very competitive league. I don't want people to just get used to the same thing over and over. So this is a great ways for people to say, hey man, this my build is good. My setup is good on my car, but it's only good on a super speedway. So when I go to a 1.5 mile, a mile, I'm not so good. So this will give the opportunity for owners to be like, hey, okay, let's make this adjustment. Um, so when you hit these tracks, your car will run better. But obviously, it's gonna come down to does the team have the finances to make those changes? So finance is always also gonna play a role into this. There's two sides of it. Um, so that's what we have coming down. As far as the series goes, I plan to keep them all Legends have been great with the heats and excuse me, they've been great. 1987, it's been a great series, and next gen and multi-class, they've been around almost since NASCAR has been around since we started the league, and multi-class, and they've been consistent as far as people viewing it, and people enjoy those. Those are our top two in the league. So those are not going anywhere. Um, I am kind of working on something, maybe adding a different series. Um, we'll see. But as far as what we have now, that's what's staying. We're not gonna change cars. We're not gonna. Uh, the only change there might be is if the new LMP comes out. If the new LMP comes out, chances are that that car can go into the multi-class. Um, but that probably be the only change. So there's not going to be no subtractions of anything. We might just get an um, an additional series, which will probably be a standalone. I'm not sure, or we just might not bring anything back because I mean my goal is when they release the dirt, the AI dirt racing. That's what a that's the missing series that I really want. So eventually, we'll have some dirt racing if it ever happens. They've been talking about this for years, so I don't know if this will ever be released. But if it does, dirt will be coming to the ESL. So um, that's our missing series. I mean, we've talked about it for so long, um, and I supposedly weather's coming out. I think at this next update, I'm hearing. There's a lot of rumors going around. I mean, we've heard them before, but I have seen
They
some.
said that 5 updates ago.
Yeah, I have seen um the UI for it, a picture. Um, so is it really gonna happen this time? I don't know. Maybe. Hopefully, this will change multi-class. So um, I really do hope it comes out either this update or the next one. Um, but yeah, so that's just things to look forward to for next season. Um, and that's pretty much all I have. I don't know if Red has thought of anything else. If anyone has a question, you want to post it in the chat there, I'll be gladly to answer it for you. Um, but it's been a great season so far. It's been so competitive. Every team has won a race. Um, let's see here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure every team has won a race. Uh, Desperado hasn't won an oval yet, and Can-Am hasn't won a multi-class, but every other team has at least one win, and that's what we want. We want a diverse group, you know, of teams to always, be able to get into victory lane, and it's all about, being competitive and competition. Um, so yeah, I see somebody posted. I don't think there is AI for dirt tracks, and there's not, but we'll see if they release that eventually. But if they do, that is on my list. So that series will definitely be coming. I've been planning for that for a long time. So when they release that, we will have dirt at one point. This is why I'm not sure if I'm going to bring a new series in, um, because dirt will replace it. Because dirt is something that I wanted in this league since we started, and but dirt will be a standalone series, and I want that series to be extremely competitive. So I have some great things lined up for that when it happens, whenever that is. So we'll see if they decide to release, dirt, or if they're even working on it. Who knows? But it all depends on that. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have. You have anything else, Rhett?
Oh, that's it for me.
All right, guys. I appreciate you guys coming out, and like as always, like I always say, supporting the league, it does mean a lot to me. Um, some of you guys been part of this league since it started, so it's almost like you guys are like a family, to me. So, um, and everyone pretty much gets along, and respects each other, and that's the important part of these leagues. Is just to have fun. This is not supposed to be about arguing. It's supposed to be a getaway from real life, and enjoy that hour or whatever it is, um, and enjoy some racing. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to these next two races. We'll see who gets in. I want to wish everyone luck um, in the playoffs, and we'll run this back again in 3 weeks. And by that time, we'll be 1 week into the playoffs, so we'll have a lot to talk about for sure. But thank you for listening and supporting the league as always, and I will see you guys next time.